Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World revolutionized the long-running series by making it more accessible without sacrificing depth. As a hunter, you embark on expeditions to track, battle, and slay gigantic monsters in vast, living ecosystems. The game introduced seamless open-world areas, removing the loading zones of previous entries, creating a truly immersive hunting experience. The weapon variety, ranging from nimble dual blades to massive greatswords, allows for countless playstyles. Additionally, the introduction of environmental interactions, such as using the terrain or smaller creatures against your prey, added a new layer of strategy. With the Iceborne expansion, the game became even more content-rich, offering some of the most challenging encounters in the series. Its cooperative multiplayer component also strengthened its replayability, making it a must-play for action RPG fans. Dark Souls 2. Set in the kingdom of Drangleic, the game follows an undead traveler searching for a cure to their affliction. Despite the new setting, the presentation and gameplay, along with certain lore connections, remain similar to Dark Souls, with notable differences including further penalty for repeated deaths via a hollowing mechanic. Dark Souls 2 is an entry in the Dark Souls series, known for its difficulty, as both bosses and standard enemies have the potential to defeat the player in only a few hits. Bad play is punished severely by most enemies, and opportunities for recovering health are limited. What's more, with each death, the player's maximum health is reduced. Upon death, the player's entire collection of souls is dropped. The player can recover their dropped souls by returning to the spot where they died, but if they die before picking them up, the souls are permanently lost. Like its predecessor, Dark Souls 2 employs minimalist storytelling to convey its plot and lore. Historical events in the world and their significance are often implicit or left to player interpretation rather than fully shown or explained. Most of the story is given to the player through dialogue from non-player characters, flavor text from items and world design. How players progress through the story can vary heavily depending on their actions. Diablo 4. Diablo 4 brings the franchise back to its dark, gothic roots while modernizing its mechanics. The world of Sanctuary is more immersive than ever, featuring a seamless open-world structure divided into 5 massive regions. The game reintroduces fan-favorite classes like the Barbarian, Sorceress, and Druid, while adding a revamped skill system for deeper customization. The dark, horror-infused atmosphere, complemented by grotesque monster designs, creates an unsettling but thrilling experience. Multiplayer elements, including shared world mechanics and world bosses, keep players engaged beyond the main campaign. PvP zones and endgame content provide reasons to keep grinding for legendary loot. With fluid combat, rich storytelling, and a hauntingly beautiful world, Diablo 4 solidifies itself as one of the best modern action RPGs. Baldur's Gate 3. Larian Studios brought the classic Dungeons & Dragons experience to life with Baldur's Gate 3. This game is a dream come true for RPG enthusiasts who crave deep, tactical combat and intricate storytelling. Utilizing the D&D 5th edition rule set, it offers unparalleled freedom in approaching quests and combat scenarios. The game's turn-based battle system allows for creative strategies, encouraging players to use the environment to their advantage. The rich dialogue choices and branching narratives ensure that no two playthroughs are the same. With a vast world to explore, meaningful choices that impact the story, and characters that feel genuinely alive, Baldur's Gate 3 is a love letter to classic RPG fans and a shining example of player agency and storytelling. The Elder Scrolls 4 Skyrim. Skyrim is one of the most iconic RPGs ever created. Its vast open world, filled with dungeons, cities, and hidden secrets, makes it a playground for exploration. The freedom to choose your path, whether as a warrior, mage, thief, or a mix of all three, ensures that every playthrough feels unique. The game's dynamic quest system generates endless content, keeping the experience fresh even after hundreds of hours. The modding community has also played a huge role in keeping Skyrim alive, adding everything from graphical overhauls to entirely new storylines. Even over a decade after its release, Skyrim continues to captivate players and remains a staple of open-world RPGs. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Building on the success of the first game, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 aims to push historical realism in RPGs even further. Set in medieval Bohemia, it focuses on authenticity in combat, politics, and survival mechanics. The first game was praised for its in-depth melee combat, realistic armor system, and historically accurate world, and its sequel promises to refine and expand upon these elements. With improved AI, deeper role-playing elements, and a gripping narrative, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated RPGs for fans of medieval realism. No Rest for the Wicked. No Rest for the Wicked is an ambitious new RPG that blends dark fantasy with intense, methodical combat. Drawing inspiration from games like Dark Souls and Diablo, it offers a challenging but rewarding experience. The game emphasizes storytelling, moral choices, and a rich world filled with supernatural horrors. While details are still emerging, early gameplay footage suggests a gripping, atmospheric RPG that could stand alongside genre greats. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I know some people might make noise about there being an Assassin's Creed game on this list, but frankly, I think I've shown restraint. The AC games had a bit of a renaissance starting with 2017's Origins, overhauling a lot of the core design and making the series from then on sharper, harder, and more interesting. Valhalla takes place in England in Anglo-Saxon times. It's a very alive yet melancholic landscape, very season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, and provides a great backdrop for the story of a Viking raider staking a claim in England that we know must eventually be doomed. The main story is an epic with betrayal, gods, monsters, and extremely mythical endgame DLC if you fancy it. Eivor, a big, buff blonde warrior of whichever gender you prefer, is a charismatic protagonist whichever way you slice it, although they do most of the slicing. Aside from the extreme meatiness of the combat, which is potentially the most violent the series has been, there are opportunities to turn the tide even further. As a raider, you travel up and down the riverways in your boat with your trusty crew and raid as a team, choosing to go in all stealthy and disabled defenses, or as a murderous axe shower. You can also choose dialogue options to make your personal Eivor a bit more of a lovable rogue or a hard-ass. You can level towards being a stealthy assassin, a brawler, or a long-range specialist. And the whole time, you're building up your village Ravensthorpe, trying to make a new home for you and your people. Fallout New Vegas. While Fallout 3 was successful, it was a different beast entirely from Interplay's classics. Obsidian's take on the franchise moves the action back to the West Coast and reintroduces elements such as reputation and faction power struggles. Obsidian expands on nearly every aspect of Bethesda's take, making the game less about good or evil and more about who you should trust. It also adds much of the humor that we loved from the classic games. How can you not appreciate a game that gives you a nuclear grenade launcher? New Vegas Hardcore mode makes survival in the wasteland more interesting, limiting the power of RadAway and health stims. It makes the game harder, but also more rewarding. If that's not your thing, there are plenty of additional mods and tweaks available, including game director Josh Sawyer's own balance tweak mod. What we love the most about New Vegas is how it adds the Fallout feeling back into Bethesda's first-person RPG framework. Dragon's Dogma 2. The sequel to Dragon's Dogma, the game is set in a fantasy-themed world parallel to the first game. Players control a customizable character through the game's open world while hunting a dragon that chose them as the Arisen, amid a geopolitical conflict by completing quests and gaining new equipment on the way with the aid of allies known as pawns. Dragon's Dogma 2 is an action role-playing game played from a third-person perspective. The player takes on the role of a character called the Arisen, a hero marked by a dragon whom they must defeat. The player explores the world they live in, taking on quests and fighting monsters while being caught up in a geopolitical conflict between two kingdoms. To assist in this, the Arisen relies on allies called pawns, non-playable characters who join the player's party. These characters are AI-controlled but function like player-controlled avatars, able to assist in fights, provide information on enemies, and give guidance to active quests. Players can each create and customize their avatar and their own pawn character with different genders, appearances, and race. In addition, players can recruit 2 additional pawns that have been created by other players. Dragon's Dogma 2 is set in a seamless open world that is 4 times larger than the map in the first game and is a parallel world to that of the previous title. The world is split between 2 major kingdoms, Vermund and Batal, populated with humans, the cat-like Beastrons, and elves. Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. Bannerlord expands on the Mount and Blade template in almost every way. You create a character and then wander a huge world looking for an army to recruit. To begin with, you're crap at everything, but through play, your mental and physical stats improve. You win fights, use your winnings to pay and grow your army, and win bigger fights. When not hitting things with swords or poking them with spears, you deal with a dynamic economy of traders and caravans, do jobs for the criminal underworld, or try to woo the nobles. Where previous games in the series painted every part of your adventures with a broad brush, Bannerlord dives down into the details. There are more weapons and different kinds of soldiers to hire, and more complexity to combat. There's more variety in jobs to perform and far less repeated dialogue. Each system is now more interesting to tinker with, and you need a lot less imagination, or fewer mods, to string those systems into a fun story than before. The only caveat is that Bannerlord remains in early access, with balancing and bug fixing still in progress. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. Ghosts of New Eden is an upcoming action RPG that promises to deliver a hauntingly beautiful experience. Set in a dark, supernatural world, you play as a ghost hunter, tasked with banishing vengeful spirits while uncovering the mysteries of a cursed land. The game blends intense combat with deep storytelling, allowing you to make moral choices that impact the narrative. The visuals are stunning, with a Gothic art style that creates a chilling atmosphere. Gothic 2. Gothic 2 is a classic RPG that has stood the test of time. Set in a gritty, immersive world, the game puts you in the shoes of the nameless hero as he battles dragons, explores ancient ruins, and navigates a complex web of factions. The game's world feels alive, with NPCs following their own schedules and reacting to your actions. The combat is challenging but rewarding, and the story is rich with lore and memorable characters. While the graphics may feel dated, the depth of the gameplay and the world building make Gothic 2 a timeless masterpiece for RPG fans. Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077 may not have launched in the best state back in 2020, but with years of updates, patches, significant overhauls to its systems, and now a fantastic new expansion on its heels, CDPR's latest RPG isn't just finally worth playing, it's one of the most memorable and flashiest RPGs of recent years. Even if you don't fancy buying the 20-hour Phantom Liberty expansion, Cyberpunk 2077 is still a stonkingly lush and thrilling RPG adventure. Night City is one of the richest environments you can explore in an RPG today, and it makes for a fantastic backdrop for your mercenary protagonist V to bomb around in. Well, I should say V and Johnny, who accompanies you on your journey after you're forced to stick an old biochip known as the Relic inside your head when a job goes awry. As you try and figure out what Johnny's doing rattling around in your skull, you'll undertake a number of rip-roaring missions to get to the bottom of why Night City is the way it is, and what role Johnny had in the making of it. It still won't scratch that approach, as-you-please Deus Ex style of RPG playing, but if you're after an exciting open-world adventure where you can run, gun, and occasionally stealth your way through its numerous capers, Cyberpunk 2077 has all of that in spades. Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium returns to the absolute fundamentals of tabletop RPGs. It's all about playing a role and becoming your character, embracing whatever success or failure that entails. Your predetermined protagonist is a detective who wakes up after an amnesia-inducing bender without a badge, gun, or a name. Your goal is to attempt to solve a murder in the strange city of Revocol, while also solving the mystery of your own past and identity. There is no combat, at least not in the way you'd expect of an old-fashioned top-down RPG. Instead, the majority of Disco Elysium takes place in conversation, either with characters you need to interview about the murder or with your own mind. Each of your skills in Disco Elysium are parts of your personality with opinions on what to say and do during your investigation. Empathy will helpfully clue you into the feelings of people you talk to so you can better understand them, while logic will help you poke holes in a bad alibi or understand a clue you find. Investing in skills helps you pass dice roll skill checks all throughout the game, for everything from kicking down a door to hitting on a woman at the hotel. It's a massive RPG with clever writing where each playthrough is significantly different based on the kind of detective you choose to play. Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, your ruined world is called the Lands Between, and you're a tarnished, a once-exiled citizen of the Lands Between, called back to restore order to the place by united fragments of the titular ring. True to form, each of these is being looked after by a big, weird monster with many other weirdo monsters to fight, scattered all over the incredibly big map. It's a bit daunting even the first time you fire the game up. There are no quest markers, merely a suggestion of which direction to explore. But as you adapt to this slight, unexpected, or disconcerting way of doing things, you see the advantages. Combat is unforgiving, but you can approach it with speed or tank through and master the art of jump attacks and dodging. But either way, it's sort of impossible to fail in the Lands Between. In Elden Ring, not only do you have a cool ghost horse, but you also have freedom. You can just see an interesting bit on the map and investigate it. Odds are that there's going to be something horrible there, but there might also be a village of pots. And the whole place is so bleak and beautiful and has so many unexpected levels above and below. There's a strange story woven around it all, and as with Dark Souls, only grasping part of it or putting together a few pieces at a time only makes the world seem bigger and more real. The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind. Morrowind is a landmark RPG that set the standard for open-world games. Set on the island of Vardenfell, the game offers unparalleled freedom, allowing you to explore a strange, alien world filled with unique cultures, creatures, and lore. The game's lack of handholding means you're free to carve your own path, whether you're joining factions, crafting potions, or uncovering ancient secrets. The story is deep and immersive, with a main quest that feels truly epic. While the graphics and mechanics may feel dated, the sheer depth and creativity of Morrowind make it a timeless classic. Black Myth: Wukong. Black Myth: Wukong is one of the most anticipated RPGs of 2024, and for good reason. Based on the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West, the game puts you in the role of the Monkey King Sun Wukong, as he battles gods, demons, and mythical creatures. The gameplay promises to be fast-paced and challenging, with a focus on combat and exploration. The visuals are stunning, with breathtaking environments and detailed character models. Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is a stunning action RPG that transports you to feudal Japan during the Mongol invasion. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai torn between honor and survival. The game's open world is a visual masterpiece with lush forests, serene temples, and fields of golden grass. The combat is fluid and satisfying, allowing you to choose between honorable duels or stealthy assassinations. The story is deeply emotional, exploring themes of sacrifice, identity, and the cost of war. Whether you're writing haikus, following foxes to hidden shrines, or facing off against Mongol warlords, Ghost of Tsushima is an unforgettable experience. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Many of the best RPGs focus on tales of lone, wandering adventurers, but few, if any, pull it off with such artistry as The Witcher 3. That artistry is most apparent in the setting itself, which is so packed with breathtaking sunsets and wind-tossed groves of trees that years later, I still find myself opting to go to destinations on foot rather than taking the fast travel points. But the true strength of The Witcher 3 is that it populates these memorable landscapes with NPCs doling out humble but memorable quests that help create one of the most human RPG experiences on the market. In decaying wayside towns, the Witcher Geralt might find impoverished elves struggling in the face of local racism. Elsewhere, he might help a self-styled baron reunite with his long-estranged daughter. These quests deftly navigate moral issues without being heavy-handed or offering obvious solutions. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is widely regarded as one of the greatest RPGs of all time, and for good reason. You play as Geralt of Rivia, a monster hunter searching for his adopted daughter Ciri, while navigating a world on the brink of war. The game's writing is exceptional, with morally complex choices that have real consequences. The world is rich with lore, hidden secrets, and dynamic events that make it feel alive. The combat is satisfying, with a mix of swordplay, magic, and alchemy. The visuals are stunning, from the lush forests of Velen to the snowy peaks of Skellige. With its rich world-building, engaging gameplay, and emotional storytelling, The Witcher 3 is a must-play for any RPG fan.